Catherine, why are you doing this? Open this door quickly. Standing outside the door, not looking for anything special? I knocked firmly on the door with a worried look. I raised my voice loudly. The sound filled the hallway. After a brief silence, a teasing giggle from Catherine could be heard from the other side of the door.
You always act like a mother to me, so this is payback. Haha.
Catherine's presence gradually faded. I strained my ears and felt Catherine's footsteps gradually moving away. Thinking back, I remembered Catherine cheerfully telling Tim over the phone this morning that she was taking a 3-night, 4-day vacation. I was surprised by the news. Meanwhile, Tim was unusually on a business trip, and he was scheduled to return in 4 days. I was wondering how different my life would be during these 4 days. I guess there's no helping it. With a deep sigh, I operated my smartwatch and tried to call a friend. While waiting for the call to connect, a thoughtful expression appeared on my face. I was already 9 months pregnant and my belly showing. I sat down to think about my next move. I placed my hand on my belly and mentally prepared myself, thinking, no more waiting. Be ready. 4 days later, Catherine hummed a tune as she crossed the front yard and reached for the house door to return. However, the moment she opened the front door, she noticed a strange smell in the house. She rushed to the sauna room with a panicked look and forcefully opened the door.
What?
I intend to verify the cause of Catherine's surprise. Lightly tapped on her surprised shoulder. My name is Ann Smith. I am currently 35 years old and work as an office lady in a city company. When I found out I was pregnant, I initially intended to continue working. However, as I entered my 9th month of pregnancy, I finally took maternity leave. This short vacation allows me to feel a release from daily life, and I truly savor the relaxation. I met my husband, Tim, at an event 4 summers ago, and we had a beautiful wedding last year. In fact, we celebrated our first wedding anniversary just a month ago. The joy of being newlyweds still feels very fresh to us. Tim is 10 years my senior, making him a mature 45-year-old man. He is incredibly kind, always prioritizes me, and is very considerate. Tim has a daughter named Catherine from his previous marriage. Catherine was born to Tim and his ex-wife. I was conscious of my advancing age and wanted to get married as soon as possible. But for Catherine, who was already in college, the sudden appearance of her father's new girlfriend might have been a bit complicated. However, Catherine was very warm-hearted.
I'm truly happy to have a new sister.
She expressed her gratitude with those words. To deepen our relationship, we decided to delay our marriage until after Catherine graduated from college. We went on frequent dates to build a foundation of trust. When Catherine started her life as a working adult and moved out, Tim and I took the significant step of getting married. Just 3 months later, we discovered that I was pregnant, adding more joy to our lives. However, after learning of my pregnancy, Catherine's attitude noticeably changed. She became colder and often looked displeased when facing me. I assumed she wasn't thrilled about having a much younger sibling due to our age difference. Remembering how she once called me like a big sister, I felt truly saddened by her change. However, I kept reassuring myself that there must be a way to address these feelings. Fortunately, this phase didn't last forever.
I'm back. Actually, I quit my job.
One day, without any warning, a large moving truck parked in front of our house, and Catherine emerged from it. As I watched her in surprise, she began removing the baby furniture from the room we had prepared for our newborn, and started placing her belongings neatly inside. What are you doing? What's happening?
As I told you, I quit my job. So I stopped earning. That's why I decided to come back here.
I was taken aback by her unexpected actions and words, finding it difficult to articulate my thoughts. Anyway, I thought I had to inform my husband, Tim, about the situation. As I hurriedly tried to find my cell phone,
I'll talk to Dad. You don't have to say anything first.
After declaring that to me, she immediately called Tim. What she said during that call was also surprising to me.
Actually, I've been feeling stressed because my relationships at work aren't progressing as I'd hoped. It was during that time that Anne told me, if it's tough for you, you can quit your job and come back here. Encouraged by those words, I decided to return. I know it might be inconvenient for the newlyweds, but I'm prioritizing finding a new job and place to live, so I hope you understand.
After ending the call, Catherine looked at me with a smug, slightly mischievous smile. I could sense a hidden meaning behind that smile and her words. I felt that she was hiding something and that not everything she said was true. I wondered how much of her story Tim believed. That night, when Tim returned home, he first entered our bedroom and wanted to discuss in detail the call he received from Catherine during the day. I calmly conveyed my concerns, including what Catherine had consulted me about, and how the children's room we had carefully prepared was arbitrarily occupied by her. Tim attentively listened to me and suggested prioritizing finding a new place for Catherine. If that's difficult, he proposed that we might consider looking for a new house. While I felt temporarily relieved by the events of the previous day, from the next morning, I started to feel exhausted by Catherine's actions and remarks.
Anne, isn't lunch ready yet?
I prepare breakfast and dinner for the family, but wasn't our initial agreement that everyone takes care of their own lunch? When Catherine suddenly started living with us, we had clearly agreed about meals. We'd have breakfast and dinner together, but lunch would be up to each individual. This was taking into consideration my health and flexibility for medical checkups or eating out. At that time, Catherine had responded cheerfully.
No worries, I understand.
However, it seems that she might not have truly been content with the arrangement.
If you're at home, can you make one for me too? I'm busy outside. I haven't even put away the laundry, and the bathroom isn't clean, right? You're always home. What are you so busy with? Being pregnant is not the same as being sick, right?
My belly has gotten bigger and it's hard to move. You're often home too, so I thought you could help me out a bit.
I've told you many times I'm busy. You spend most of your time at home, and it's your role to do the housework. I have no obligation to help.
Catherine smirked and intentionally kicked the laundry I had neatly folded. The malice in that act reminded me of a sinister old woman. Why are you doing this? Did I upset you in any way?
You really don't get it. My mother's husband, my father, you ensnared him and had a child on your own. How can I ever like you? Leave this house now. My mom can't come back because of you.
Her words shocked me. I sensed it had to do with her biological mother, the ex-wife, Julie. It sounded as if I had betrayed Julie with Tim. That's absolutely not true. But Catherine didn't seem to accept my rebuttal. In the following days, she took even more astonishing actions.
I'm going out for a bit.
After she declared and left, I cleaned up and resumed my daily chores. After cleaning every room and finishing the laundry, I was about to relax when I heard the front door open. Thinking she had come back early, I headed to the living room. What's going on? I was taken aback. Instead of Catherine alone, another woman was with her. This woman seemed to be around my age or older. I could sense some of Catherine's features in her, and a suspicion arose. I'm sorry, but by any chance are you related to Tim? As I carefully chose my words with a slight hint of embarrassment, both Catherine and the woman smirked in irony. The woman took a step forward, stopping in front of me with an air of superiority.
Nice to meet you, cat burglar. My name is Julie. I'm Catherine's biological mother and once the only woman who had Tim's love.
From the way she spoke and the tone of her voice, I could sense an underlying meaning. In that instant, a cold feeling spread across my heart. Julie, seeming to enjoy my surprise and disarray, continued speaking.
Well, right now, you are certainly by Tim's side. I acknowledge the fact that you have a child with him. However, I plan to return to this house. When that happens, you won't be allowed to stay here.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
In short, since I plan on returning to this house, you need to leave. I acknowledge that for a short period, you've been beside Tim. But in his heart, I've always been the most important.
I knew from Tim that Julie had relations with another man, and that's why she left the house. Moreover, my relationship with Tim deepened several years after he and Julie officially divorced. There's no reason for her to call me a cat burglar. Especially when she herself left the house one day and now, out of the blue, decides to come back.
So, Han, when do you plan on leaving our house? If you like, tomorrow is fine. Look, I even brought the divorce papers.
After saying that, she coldly placed the divorce papers in front of me and said,
Tonight, my mother and I plan to spend the night out.
She then quickly left the house. I just watched her back and stood still, speechless. For the next few months, while Catherine acted calm on the surface, her caution towards me was evident. However, there weren't any specific instances of harassment or trouble. Gradually, a sense of normalcy returned to daily life and I began to feel more at ease. I didn't think then that it would be a grave mistake. On a sunny holiday, unexpectedly, Catherine approached me with a bright expression on her face.
Hey, Anne, something seems off with our sauna machine. Can you help me out?
Drawn by her gentle voice and the soft touch of her hand, I headed towards the sauna. However, nothing seemed amiss with the sauna at first glance. As I stepped inside to inspect further, the door suddenly slammed shut from behind. Catherine, what's going on? I don't understand why you're doing this. Open this door right now. I placed my hand on the firmly closed door and shouted, trying not to let my voice waver. From the other side of the door, after a moment of silence, Catherine's cold, distinctive laughter leaked out.
Know your place, and don't make that motherly face in front of me. This is your retribution.
With those words, her footsteps gradually faded away. As I recall, this morning, I heard Catherine telling Tim that she was taking a 3-night, 4-day vacation. And unfortunately, Tim was also on a business trip, saying he wouldn't be back for 4 days. In such a situation, I operated the advanced wearable device on my arm and started to make an emergency call to a trusted person. My belly, now in the 9th month of pregnancy, was certainly growing larger, and I considered my next move while feeling its weight. I'll never forgive such actions. Catherine, I will make you regret this. After enduring the long 4 days, Catherine returned home cheerfully humming a song. However, upon entering, she quickly noticed an unpleasant smell in the house and rushed to the sauna. The expression on her face when she forcefully opened the sauna door is something I'll never forget.
What the heck is this?
Standing beside her, I watched as Catherine's eyes widened in shock, and I petted her shoulder with a smile. Now, it was time to correct her misbehavior.
Are you still alive?
Yes, fortunately, I'm safe. In response to my calm answer, Catherine stared at me with evident anger. Seeing her reaction, I inquired about the situation in more detail. Tell me, what were you planning to do if something had happened to me after locking me in that sauna for 4 days?
There's no way an adult would die in just 4 days. But I'm not sure about the baby in your belly.
I've made sure to tell Tim about this.
What do you mean?
As I slowly turned my face toward the living room, Tim slowly emerged from a shadow against the wall. His face looked more serious than usual, emitting a somewhat fearful atmosphere.
Dad, why are you here? Weren't you at work?
I got an urgent message from Ann, so I came back right away to find out what happened. Actually, my business trip was with a team of 4, so I explained the situation to everyone and got permission to come back a little early.
Why would you do such a thing, Ann? You shouldn't do something that could seriously damage Dad's career.
You're the one who caused this situation, Catherine.
The atmosphere in the room suddenly became tense, and Tim's stern voice filled the room. Catherine, amidst his overwhelming presence, trembled slightly as she looked up at his face.
I think there were many things you could feel about our divorce back then. I didn't explain the specific reasons because I didn't want to hurt you. However, with what happened now, I feel that the past circumstances are affecting the current situation. I'm genuinely surprised that my daughter would take actions that could endanger the family she loves.
Wait, Dad, what do you mean?
Ann is truly a patient and generous person. She's forgiven me for many things in the past, but maybe I should have told you about my previous marriage and why it failed. In fact, a major factor in my divorce from Julie was her affair with my direct boss, no less.
I never knew that.
Catherine's surprised eyes moved between me and Tim. Tim took a deep breath, looking as if he had decided in his heart.
Actually, my relationship with Ann began quite a while after that divorce, so it wasn't because of her that we separated.
But according to Mom's story, Julie tends to rely on me whenever things aren't going well with her boyfriend. I think that might have led to the current situation. After that, Tim took out his smartphone from his pocket, started dialing a number while touching the screen, and began a call in a softer tone than before.
Hey, it's been a while. How have you been? I heard something from Catherine, and I feel the need to reconsider a lot of things. So, I want to have a proper discussion with you. Can you come to my house tonight?
A high-tension voice echoed from the other end of the phone. Just by hearing it, I instantly recognized who he was talking to. After a short pause, Julie, hands full of packages, nonchalantly entered. What struck me was that she didn't ring the doorbell at all. She just walked in. From this, it was evident that Catherine had given her a spare key in advance.
Tim. It's been a long time. Finally come to your senses? Ann? Why are you still here? Can you leave? We want some family time from now on.
Ignoring the stern-faced Tim and the visibly confused Catherine, Julie addressed me. I calmly smiled back at Julie and subtly shifted my gaze to Tim beside me. Noticing this slight movement, Julie turned towards Tim. In that moment, her eyes widened in shock and she dropped all her packages.
I'm surprised by this scheme of yours.
I don't see any reason to be courteous to a woman who threatens our home.
But I truly love you from the bottom of my heart.
Did someone dump you again? Seems like that happens quite frequently, doesn't it?
What are you talking about?
Julie was taken aback by Tim's piercing words. Her face turned beet red as she looked at him in surprise. The truth was that Tim had known about Julie's life for a long time. Not through a private investigator, but through information from Julie's parents. They felt that their daughter's behavior was beyond normal. So, they updated Tim about Julie's activities, especially when he remarried. They did this to ensure Catherine's safety and stability. Every time Julie found a new boyfriend, she would move in with him. When it soured, she'd jump to the next man. Tim wanted distance from Julie for Catherine's safety. Catherine loved her mother Julie since birth. She respected her feelings until the truth was apparent.
Catherine, I know you've been close to a colleague at work. Is it because of Julie's influence?
Her. How do you know about that?
The company you've joined is actually one of our affiliate groups. With a little bit of information gathering, it's easy to find out such things.
Catherine was taken aback by this revelation and was momentarily lost for words. I too was shocked when I first heard this information. However, I was even more astounded by the fact that was revealed next.
By the way, it seems you and Julie have very similar tastes in love.
What? What do you mean by that?
Tim then showed the screen of his smartphone to Julie. The moment Julie saw it, her face turned red with anger. She stormed over to Catherine and slapped her hard on the cheek.
You stole him from me. My precious one.
What are you talking about? Can you be more specific?
It's all your fault that he was suddenly fired, faced financial difficulties, and I was consequently forced to leave my home.
But was he your partner? Mom always said you are enjoying your single life, and that you still loved my dad.
Tim is wealthy, so I chose his house as a safe place temporarily. I treated you normally, but I never expected this to happen.
I can't believe this. This has to be a lie.
I was completely taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Seeing Julie explode in anger and Catherine in tears was like watching a chaotic painting. In this tense atmosphere, suddenly the doorbell rang.
That must be them. Anne, can you please check the front door?
Got it. I'll check right away. Hearing Tim's voice, I quickly went to the front door. As I opened the door, I saw a middle-aged couple who looked very polite even at first glance.
We are Julie's parents.
I was a bit flustered, but I led them to the living room.
Julie, why would you do such a thing? We're so heartbroken. This is beyond what we can bear.
Wait, Mom and Dad too? Why are you here?
I received an urgent message from Tim and came right away.
Julie's mother, with a mix of anger and disappointment in her words, grabbed Julie's arm tightly. Seeing this, Julie became defiant. This caused her father to slap her across the face. Julie's eyes widened in shock and pain. Her father's gaze was extremely cold and stern.
You will be taken to a relative's house immediately. Don't even think about coming back to this house.
Wait, to that house. No, I absolutely refuse.
You don't have the right to choose here.
I will not go.
Julie's heart-wrenching scream echoed in the silent room. Her father held her arm tightly, paused for a moment, then deeply bowed to Tim. After that, with a determined look, he took Julie outside. After the intense scene settled, the room was filled with the sobbing sounds of Catherine, her tears streaming.
Dad, I'm really sorry. I had no idea. From now on, I promise to be a better daughter.
Who do you think you should be apologizing to in the first place?
What? What do you mean?
Confusion filled Catherine's eyes. She desperately tried to understand Tim's words. Meanwhile, I raised my hand to calm him down, hoping he wouldn't shout again, and gave Catherine a gentle smile. Catherine saw my smile and, for a moment, looked relieved. However, breaking that brief peace, I began to speak. Actually, this house has already been sold to someone else. So, we also have to leave this place soon. And you will need to find a new place within the next 3 days.
What? Why?
Exactly what I said.
But finding a new place in just 3 days is impossible.
With a look of surprise, Catherine looked to Tim for support. However, Tim remained silent, simply watching her. It seemed Catherine was slowly coming to terms with the truth. With a mix of shock and anxiety on her face, she approached me and started asking questions fervently.
Please, I beg you, can I stay here just while I find a new home? Oh, and if you let me, I promise I'll actively help with the baby that's on the way and also do the housework.
Considering what you've done that threatens my safety and the safety of my unborn child, I can't just believe you that easily. Even if you say you'll take care of things, judging from your past actions, I doubt if you really can. Please don't joke around.
Why has it come to this?
As she forced the words out, Catherine sank down onto the floor. Even seeing her like that, I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy or pity for her. The mistake she made was something I found extremely serious and unforgivable.
Honestly, I was shocked by your actions this time. I believed you were someone who could understand and empathize with others. Have you ever thought about what might have happened if I hadn't come home then? You might have committed an irredeemable crime. You should be grateful that Aunt is so forgiving and has decided not to report to the police. And I believe you should reflect deeply on your actions for the rest of your life.
And if there's anything I can do.
After those words, for a split second, a glint of hope appeared in her eyes. Perhaps she was trying to show such emotions to move my heart. Actually, what I felt wasn't sympathy or pity. I sincerely thought it would be unfortunate if my future child would have to bear the stigma of having a criminal as a sibling. If it weren't for that, I would have reported you to the police without any hesitation. Honestly, right now, I just want to leave this place as soon as possible. Surprise and pain mixed in Catherine's eyes, and tears began to flow. Without any hesitation, I stood in front of her and continued, "There will be some crucial moments in life, perhaps a marriage, or the day you are blessed with a child. When those times come, I believe you'll truly grasp the gravity and terror of what happened this time. I look forward to seeing that moment." I probably had a calm yet sarcastic smile on my face. Whether that smile intensified Catherine's fear or not, her face turned even paler and her body trembled slightly. "We're likely never to meet again. I'm leaving to start a new life in a new house. So, please also try to walk a new path in your life."
If you're still here in 3 days, I've informed the company I hired to dispose of everything inside, so please sort it out before then.
After our last conversation with Catherine, we decided to return to our new home. Later on, we heard that Catherine tried to hurriedly pack only her most valuable belongings within the limited time she had. However, she ended up running out of time and was forced to leave the place where she had been living. Moreover, rumors of her inappropriate behavior at her former workplace spread throughout the community, resulting in her relationships with friends and acquaintances becoming strained. Now, there are talks of her looking for day labor jobs and using internet cafes as shelters at night. Occasionally, calls from Catherine would appear on him's phone, but he showed no intention of responding. On the contrary, he told me that he is planning to get a new number. He even expressed his determination to cut off all contact with her. Even if he hadn't known about the affair, it was clear that his daughter's actions had deeply hurt him. Meanwhile, Julie's situation was also dire. She had been taken by her parents to a remote, isolated island to a relative's ranch and was reportedly forced to work there. Due to the constant shortage of labor at the ranch, Julie had to work from sunrise to sunset without a break. Her smartphone was confiscated by her parents, and she had no means of communicating with the outside world. Additionally, Julie's parents had plans to settle on the island permanently shortly. They intended to marry her off to the ranch owner's son, ensuring she never left the island. I couldn't help but feel sympathy for him. However, there's no denying that his punishment was somehow justifiable for hurting someone important. After the incident, Tim clearly went through a period of depression. But ever since we found out that our upcoming baby was a boy, he started to gradually brighten up. Especially at night, he would listen to my belly, speaking to our future child, saying,
"Listen, this is your dad's voice. I wonder what sports you'll want to play in the future. Baseball, soccer, or maybe basketball or volleyball."
Watching him was truly heartwarming. Moreover, he recently got a promotion and, with it, a substantial increase in income. His dedication to working hard for his family showed his strong sense of responsibility. Through all of this, I was reaffirmed in the decision to marry him. At that time, I began to feel the onset of contractions. The joy of becoming a mother mixed with the fear of the impending pain filled my heart. By my side, Tim, with a slightly panicked look, was trying to support me. While waiting for the taxi, I distracted myself from the pain by picturing our baby's face. We hadn't decided on a name yet, but I had a feeling that once we saw our baby's face, the perfect name would come to us.
"The taxi is coming this way. Are you able to walk for a bit?"
Yes, the pain is intense, but I'll try my best. Despite the pain, I carefully stood up and started walking towards the taxi, taking deep breaths. This is the real deal. I need to use all my knowledge and experience to get through the birth, I thought to myself as I got into the taxi. Looking out of the window, I was filled with a deep sense of determination.
"I'll support you no matter what. Just believe in yourself and give it your all until the end."
Tim, you've really been my savior. Thank you. The moment he gently held my cold hand, I was enveloped in a momentary sense of relief, expressing my deep gratitude to him. I was confident that together, we would overcome this challenging moment. My heart was filled with excitement at the thought of meeting our child soon.
You're being transferred from the development department to the sales department, Isaiah, the department manager, informed me. It felt like I had been hit in the head with a hammer. I desperately wanted to stay in the development department. I hated the idea of being in sales. Driven by this strong feeling, I rebelled against Isaiah, who had just delivered the news of my transfer. However, it seemed like the decision was final, and Isaiah showed no signs of taking back what he said. Still holding onto my frustration, I returned to my desk, only to be hit by another shock. The reason for my transfer was that everyone in the department had petitioned for it. Everyone, including the senior staff, was fed up with your arrogant attitude. We don't want to work with you anymore. If you don't quit, we will. Everyone but you said that to Isaiah. Trembling with my lips quivering, I looked around the office. Everyone was staring at me with cold eyes. It was only then that I realized just how terrible my behavior had been, and suddenly, it all made sense. I deserved to be demoted. I quietly accepted the transfer. When I learned my new office was in my hometown, I felt bitter, but I decided to accept it as the punishment I deserved. Determined to work humbly, I found that my past self still haunted me, as I was brought to my knees by regret. The one who reached out a helping hand to me was Riley Woodson. I used to work in the development department at a company that deals in power tools, but that was until just recently. Now, I'm in a branch office far from the headquarters in my hometown. And here I am, under countless cold stares. So, that's Riley, the guy who used to be in development. I've never heard of someone from development being transferred to sales. He must have really messed up. Apparently, he's been boasting to everyone since he joined the company, saying things like, "Don't challenge me. I'm a prodigy." Wow, we have to work with a guy like that now. Those comments were impossible to ignore. I couldn't help but avert my eyes in shame. Through the window, the scenery outside was exactly what you'd imagine. A typical countryside view. Vast fields of farmland and patches of nature, with only a few modest buildings scattered here and there. Nearby, I could even see the bright colors of daffodils blooming in the distance. The sight only deepened my feeling of despair. I started reflecting on the path that had brought me here. I had been called a prodigy in my hometown. In elementary, middle, and high school, I was always ranked number 1 in my class. Riley, you're amazing. Not only did my teachers and the adults in the neighborhood praise me, but Hugh, my friend since elementary school, also admired me. From a young age, I became so full of myself. I'm sick of hearing that, Hugh. You need to expand your vocabulary. That's why you always score poorly in language arts. Ah, you're right. I'll study harder. When I elbowed Hugh, he gave me his usual awkward smile. He was always like that. When it came time to choose where to go to college, I naturally decided to apply to a prestigious university in the city. With my grades and GPA, I was confident I'd get in, and I bragged about it to everyone. After all, no one from our high school had ever gone to that university before. I would be the first. But then, to my surprise, Hugh said he would apply there too. What? There's no way you could get in. But the teacher said that if I work a little harder on my GPA, I might be within reach. There's no point. No matter how much you try, it's useless. Maybe because I rejected him so strongly, Hugh eventually gave up on applying. I went on alone, easily getting into the prestigious university. After leaving my hometown, I rarely returned, so I have no idea what happened to him after that. At the famous university, I performed exceptionally well and eventually joined the company I work for now. Most of my coworkers in the development department were from what you'd call party schools, so I acted arrogantly there too. When a fellow employee submitted a proposal and a senior pointed out some issues with it, I saw him slink back to his desk in defeat. I walked over to him without being asked, grabbed the proposal, and started reading it. Hey, this structure is all wrong. Even a high schooler could figure this out. Did you really graduate from college? Let me fix it for you, I said, offering unsolicited help. Naturally, my coworkers, both peers and seniors, were not pleased with my condescending attitude. But at the time, I had no clue. 2 years into the job, when Isaiah called me in, I was convinced it was news of a promotion. "You're being transferred from the development department to sales." Isaiah delivered the news, and it felt like I'd been hit over the head with a hammer. What? Why? Why sales of all things? Anyone can do that job. Then you should be able to do it too. No, that's not what I meant. Why should I, of all people, be stuck doing a job that anyone can do? That's exactly the problem. Isaiah pointed a finger at me. Have you ever thought about your last name? Woodson. It's one of the professions that were valued and respected during the frontier days. People often talk about self-reliance and individual success during that time, but many also contributed to building a better community by cooperating with others. Without consideration and cooperation, you lose respect. We can't eat off respect, though. That's not the point. It's about working with humility and respect. You lack that. You look down on everyone else. I frowned at his criticism. Isaiah stood up and placed a hand on my shoulder. Learn the right attitude through your work in sales. Frustrated, I turned away without saying a word and stormed back to my desk, slamming it with my fist in anger. My coworkers looked up, startled, and then sighed in exasperation. Riley got demoted. Good. Our petition worked. Hearing this, I rushed over to them. It was my peers talking. Hey, what do you mean by that? I was furious, but instead of being intimidated, one of them raised his eyebrows at me. Listen, everyone, including the seniors, was sick of your arrogant attitude. We don't want to work with you anymore, they told Isaiah. If you don't quit, we will. Once again, I was stunned. Trembling, I looked around the office. Everyone was staring at me with cold, indifferent eyes. It was only at that moment that I finally realized how awful I had been. It all made sense now. I deserved this demotion. I quietly accepted the transfer. Learning that my new assignment was in my hometown filled me with bitterness, but I decided to accept it as the punishment I deserved. Hey, why are you all whispering and talking behind his back? That's rude, rude. A bright voice snapped me out of my daze. When I looked up, a woman with a poised and confident demeanor stood before me. She smiled warmly at me. I'm Courtney Harris. I'm the branch manager here, though it's just a small office with only a sales department, so there's not much to brag about. Her comment made the employees chuckle. The once gloomy atmosphere in the office seemed to clear up in an instant. I've heard all about it, Riley. The fact that you weren't fired but only transferred shows that the company still sees you as valuable. You seem to be reflecting on things now, and if you work hard here, I'm sure you'll be back in the development department. Courtney's bright smile was dazzling. As I stared at her in awe, I felt a firm slap on my back. What are you daydreaming about? Time to get to work. Oh, yes. I blushed, hurrying after Courtney, who was about to teach me the ropes. Following her straight posture, I made a firm vow to work humbly here, never looking down on others again. After my first day at the new job, I went home, back to my parents' house. I had planned to live alone near the office, but when I told my mom I'd been transferred to a branch near home, she said, "In that case, it's faster to commute from here." So I decided to take her up on the offer. As my mother had said, commuting from home was much more convenient than renting the closest apartment. I'm home. I stepped into the entrance, relieved to see my father's shoes weren't there. My father was an average businessman, working in sales at a small and medium-sized enterprise that made parts for our company. I had always looked down on him. Once, on my way home from school, I saw my father at work. There he was, a grown man desperately pitching his company's products to a customer. To my younger self, that sight looked pathetic. I thought I'd never want to do a job like that, where you sometimes had to suck up to people. That's why I swore I'd never take a sales job. I had even boasted about it to my father before leaving home. Now, here I was, demoted and working in sales. I didn't have the guts to face my father. Since returning home a few days ago, I'd been avoiding him. If he wasn't home, it was lucky for me. I was physically and mentally exhausted from my first day, and I didn't want to have to tiptoe around the house. "Welcome home, Riley. Dinner's ready." My mom pulled me along. I tilted my head, wondering why she was being so forceful. Then I saw my father in the living room. I couldn't help but make a sour face. "Welcome home," I muttered. "I'm home," he greeted me. I returned the courtesy out of politeness. "Oh, thank goodness. Finally, you and your father are face to face," my mom said. "I was worried because you've been avoiding him. I figured if I didn't make you see each other, you two might never talk again. Now, let's eat. I made a special dinner for your first day at the new job." The table was packed with my favorite foods: roasted chicken wings, deviled eggs, meatloaf, chicken noodle soup, coleslaw, macaroni, and cheese and mashed potatoes. Everything was just as delicious as I remembered. As I wolfed down my food, my mom smiled and asked me how work was going and if I thought I'd be good at sales. My father, on the other hand, didn't say a word, same as always. It left me with a mix of relief and discomfort. A week passed since my transfer. What I learned was that sales were much harder than I thought. When it came to the products I had worked on in development, I could explain them with ease, but with the other tools, I was completely lost. I felt like punching my past self for saying, anyone can do sales. "If you're in sales, you need to be able to explain all of our products," Courtney scolded me. I spent my break staring intently at our product catalog. The atmosphere in the office was still cold towards me. The bad rumors from my time in the development department still lingered. People said, "Let it blow over." But there didn't seem to be any such wind blowing my way. I couldn't help but feel distant. That's why I was behind the branch office, studying the product catalog. It was a perfect spot because I could practice speaking out loud without bothering anyone. It was mid-spring, so the weather was just right, not too hot or too cold. As I muttered to myself, imagining a client in front of me while explaining the products, I heard the sound of a baby crying. A baby out here in the middle of nowhere. I tilted my head and looked around. Then I spotted a small cat in front of me, a bright, tawny tabby cat. The crying sound I heard earlier was actually its meow. I realized I misheard. The tabby approached me. Cats are naturally cautious creatures, even more so if they're strays, so I was surprised, but at the same time, I found it adorable. Truth be told, I'm a huge cat lover. Meow. The tabby let out a soft, affectionate sound, and I was instantly smitten. I wished I had brought some treats for it now that I knew a cat was around. But all I had on me was the product catalog. "Here you go. Butterscotch. Snack time." Courtney's voice called out. The tabby responded with a meow and trotted off toward her voice. Courtney soon appeared in the direction the cat was heading. "Oh, Riley, what are you doing out here?" "Just practicing for sales. What about you?" "I'm here to give Butterscotch a snack." "Butterscotch? Is that the name of the tabby? Is it your cat?" "No, it's a stray. It just settled here. I named it." "Why Butterscotch?" "Because I like butterscotch." Courtney crouched down and started feeding Butterscotch some cat treats. Her usual composed expression softened into something much gentler. "You like cats too, don't you?" Of course. How about you, Riley? Yes. I nodded enthusiastically. She laughed. Oh, and feel free to talk to me more casually. All this formality is too stiff. Okay, but that's an order from your branch manager. Just kidding. She playfully stuck out her tongue, and my heart skipped a beat. Okay, I'll try to be more casual then. Courtney smiled warmly at my response. Sharing the same love for cats and seeing her more relaxed, I felt like the distance between us had shrunk just a bit. The thought made my heart flutter. Suddenly, she handed me some cat treats. Here, Riley. You want to give Butterscotch a snack too, right? As soon as the treats were in my hand, Butterscotch came back over to me, mewing as if demanding the treat. I couldn't help but smile at how adorable it was. Heh. Riley, you should smile like that more often. It's because you're always wearing that serious, stern expression that people find it hard to talk to you. Really? Is that why you didn't realize? Courtney widened her eyes in surprise when I shook my head. She shrugged her shoulders. I'll be more mindful of that. Good. Her smile was as bright as ever. As I stood there, captivated by her, she suddenly clapped her hands, breaking the spell. Break's over. Let's get back to work. Yes. I stood up. Butterscotch promptly trotted off, the treats in my hand all gone. Feeling a bit disappointed by Butterscotch's departure and by Courtney switching back to work mode, I mentally shifted myself back to focus. After Courtney's advice, I made an effort to smile more often. Whenever I felt tense, I would think about Courtney and Butterscotch, and my expression would naturally soften. Though sometimes I smiled too much and probably looked a bit too relaxed, just as she said, people slowly started to talk to me more. As I worked with a smile and a humble attitude, I grew closer to my colleagues. By the end of the first month, I had made good friends with many of them. I'm sorry about what we said on your first day. We were out of line. Walter and Aiden, the first people I got close to, one day bowed their heads to me. No, those rumors were true, and I totally understand why everyone acted that way. It's fine, really. Hearing this, both of them sighed in relief. As my relationships with my coworkers improved, I realized how much easier it made the job. I used to be in development, and people would come to me with product-related questions. I'd ask them for advice on my sales challenges. I began to enjoy working in sales. It's been a few months since I started, and I was called into Courtney's office for a significant task. I have a job I'd like you to take on, Riley. You know about CL Corp, right? Yes. They're a company that sells farming equipment. It is really a major. Exactly. They've approached us about carrying some more products, and I'd like you to handle the negotiations. Wait, why me? I haven't even been in sales for a year yet, and isn't that something headquarters should take care of? The product they're interested in is one you developed, so who better than you? If this deal goes through, they might even start carrying other products from our company. If that happens, this branch would break the all-time sales record, not just for here, but for the entire company. It's a huge deal. What do you think? Can you do it? The words all-time record took my breath away. A shiver ran through my body, but it wasn't from fear. It was excitement. I'll do it. Please let me handle it. I knew you'd say that. Good luck. A sales rep from AIP, the company that handles most of the parts for the products we're negotiating, will be attending the meeting with you. You have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow, so be prepared. Courtney's smile only fueled my determination. I was going to make sure this deal happened no matter what. But AIP, that's the company my father works for. At dinner, I decided to ask my father, "Hey Dad, tomorrow I have a pre-meeting with the rep from AIP who's helping us with the CL Corp deal. Do you know who that person might be?" My relationship with my father was still awkward, and he was a quiet man to begin with, so we barely spoke. Asking him this question made me more nervous than meeting a new client. "Don't bring work into the house," came his curt reply. My father silently finished his dinner and retreated to his room. Come on, can't you just answer for once? I muttered a complaint under my breath. The next day, I was fired up and ready for my meeting with the AIP representative, but it was my father who appeared in front of me. I was so shocked that I couldn't even speak. I'm Kyle Woodson. Nice to meet you. My father handed his business card to Courtney and me. Courtney, after seeing his last name, widened her eyes in surprise. Woodson, are you by any chance related to Riley? He's my father. When I told her, Courtney exclaimed, What? Her eyes opened even wider. I glared at my father, who sat calmly across from me, wearing a gentle smile. Why didn't you say anything when I asked you yesterday? I was irritated, so my voice came out sharp. My father's expression grew stern. Don't bring family matters into work. What's that supposed to mean? That's not even an answer. Unable to contain my anger, I stood up abruptly. Courtney quickly scolded me. Hey, that's enough. Even if he's your father, it's rude to treat someone we're about to work with that way. Chastised, I reluctantly bowed my head toward my father and muttered, I apologize. My father said nothing in return. I'm truly sorry. Riley is still learning, so I hope you'll guide him along the way. Even as Courtney, too, bowed her head beside me, my father remained silent. In my mind, I cursed, wondering how someone like him had managed to stay in sales for so long. After the meeting ended, I bowed my head to Courtney. I'm sorry about my father. He's not much of a talker. He was like a craftsman. Really cool, she said, surprising me with a comment completely opposite of how I saw him. Hearing Courtney call my father cool stirred feelings of jealousy in me. Embarrassing. I shouldn't be jealous of my own father, I thought, shaking my head to push the feeling away. Our meeting with CL Corp is next week, and I'll be joining too, of course. Let's work together to secure this contract, Courtney encouraged. Despite the small sense of unease I felt about my father, I could only nod in response to Courtney's cheerful encouragement. Then the day of the meeting arrived. The weather was perfect, almost as if it were rooting for us. All right, let's do this. Courtney was fired up, while my father, as usual, said nothing. Together, we waited for the representative from CL Corporation. That meeting was supposed to take place at our office since the client wanted to test the products firsthand. The agricultural equipment was too large to transport easily, so they were coming to us. The person attending the meeting today was supposedly an American working for CL Corp's U.S. branch. CL Corp had offices all over the world and often made deals with companies that produced quality products in each country. Their headquarters promoted a culture of diversity, which was likely why they sent people from various backgrounds. Before long, a taxi pulled up in front of our building. When I saw who stepped out, I froze. Riley? Courtney called my name in a puzzled tone, nudging me with her elbow, but I couldn't move. Still staring at the person in front of me, I was more shocked than when I found out my father was coming. Standing there was Hugh, the same childhood friend I had spent my school days with, from elementary to high school, whom I had belittled and whose path I had obstructed. My name is Hugh. I'm the representative from CL Corporation. It's a pleasure to meet you, Hugh said as he extended his business card. I took it with trembling hands. I was too stunned to speak, as my father and Courtney, with smiles on their faces, handed their business cards to Hugh. I knew I had to do the same. I'm Riley, I said, handing my card to Hugh. His expression darkened. So, it really is you, Riley, he said. His face and voice made it clear that he still harbored negative feelings toward me. Courtney led Hugh to the meeting room. After some light conversation over tea, we got down to business. Here is the product that CL Corp expressed interest in, Courtney said, as we stepped outside. She introduced the product she'd had prepared to Hugh. Riley here was involved in the development of this product, so feel free to ask him any questions. Is that so? Hugh's short response made me break out in a cold sweat. Feeling the tension, I began explaining how the product worked. I see. It's great that it's intuitive to use without much explanation, Hugh said. Exactly, Courtney replied with a smile. Hugh slowly released his grip on the tool and looked at us with an apologetic expression. It's a great product, but I'm going to have to pass on this contract. What? Why? Courtney's voice was filled with confusion. Hugh stared directly at me. I've known Riley since we were kids. I know exactly the kind of person he is, someone who belittles others and shows no respect. I can't trust a product made by someone like that, so it's my fault after all. Instead of feeling shocked, I felt a strange sense of acceptance. The mistakes of my past were catching up with me. I had been a terrible person back then. This felt like the punishment I deserved, and I resigned myself to losing the contract. But then my father stepped in between Hugh and me. Looking Hugh straight in the eyes, he said, "You're right, Riley lacked respect in the past. But he's not the same person anymore. He's changed and is now taking his work seriously. Please don't judge him by his past. Judge him by the person he is now." My father was engaged with customers with sincere words and a sincere attitude. It was exactly like what I had seen all those years ago when I passed by him on my way home from school. Back then, I thought, I never want to be like that. But now, it felt different. His actions seemed noble. I wanted to be like him, or rather, I needed to be like him. But if I kept hiding behind my father, I'd only look weak. I mustered my courage and stood beside him. "Hugh, I'm truly sorry for belittling you and interfering with your future. I was full of myself back then, and I know an apology can't undo the damage I caused. But just for today, can you look past me and focus on this company and this product? Yes, I developed it, but it's the amazing team at our manufacturing department and the dedicated employees of AIP who brought it to life. I couldn't have done it alone. I don't want to waste their hard work, so please reconsider the contract." I couldn't read Hugh's emotions as he refused to meet my eyes. Then, someone stepped beside me. At the same time, I heard footsteps approaching from behind us. "We're asking you to," Courtney spoke up, followed by a chorus of pleas from the employees behind us. My chest tightened, and I felt tears welling up. "I understand. I apologize to all of you. I let my personal feelings get in the way of work. This is an excellent product. Let's move forward with the contract." As Hugh took back his words, the employees erupted in cheers. Courtney rushed over to thank him repeatedly. Finally, Hugh and I locked eyes, and he walked over, giving me a pat on the shoulder. "Riley, sorry for being so harsh. It's not you who should apologize. I'm the one who's at fault forever." Hugh lowered his gaze. "The reason I wanted to go to the same university as you, Riley, was because I wanted to study with you. You made fun of me a lot, but I always looked up to you. When you rejected me, it was such a shock that I changed my entire path. I didn't know that. I'm really sorry." This time, I looked him in the eyes as I apologized. Hugh extended his hand to me. When I grabbed it, he pulled me in close. "Seeing you today, I realized again how amazing you are, Riley. Do you think we can finally become real friends this time?" A warm surge of emotion welled up from deep inside me. I swallowed hard, determined not to cry here. "If you're willing to give me another chance, let's start over and be friends." Hugh gripped my hand tightly with both of his, and we stood there. Applause erupted around us. The setting sun painted the road home in red as my father and I walked together. Looking at his back as he walked ahead of me, I found myself wondering if he had always been this imposing. I hadn't really taken a good look at him like this before. "Thank you, Dad, and I'm sorry," I called out to his broad back. He stopped, turning to face me. "When I was younger, I saw you working so hard and I thought, I don't want to become a man like that. That's why I told you I'd never do sales and left. But I was wrong. I didn't understand anything back then. You weren't just working for yourself, you were doing it for the company, for others. You were a respectable, cool dad, and I didn't see that. I glanced up at him as I finished speaking. My father didn't say a word, just stared at me quietly. I shrugged, thinking he would stay silent as usual. You've always been smart, he spoke up softly. After widening my eyes, I held my breath, ready to hear what he would say next. But the problem was you let your intelligence get to your head. I always believed that one day you'd understand, and now you've reflected on your past and moved forward. Today, when your coworkers gathered around you as you apologized sincerely, I realized just how much you've grown. You've done well, Riley. Hearing those words, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. As I sobbed, my father gently pulled me into a hug. You should be proud of yourself. You've grown through your mistakes, and I'm proud to call you my son. Sniffling, I nodded in his arms. The next day at work, I was greeted with smiles from everyone. Riley, those heartfelt words of yours, man, they really hit me. So now Riley's going to be the top salesperson. No way, the CEO is going to let you stay here. So does that mean you're heading back to headquarters? Aiden's comment made Walter and everyone else in the office look at me with sad expressions. No, don't get ahead of yourselves. Besides, the only reason we secured the deal yesterday was because all of you supported me. Even if headquarters calls me back, I'm going to say I won't go without you all. When I said that, Aiden grinned and tackled me. I stumbled back from the force. All right, sorry to interrupt your moment. Courtney appeared, as composed as ever. I couldn't help but stare at her, captivated by her usual poise. But Aiden nudged me, grinning mischievously. Riley, were you serious earlier about not going back to headquarters without everyone? Yes, I'm really happy to be working with all of you, and I want to keep working together for as long as I can. Courtney hummed thoughtfully, crossing her arms. Even with a slightly troubled expression, she still looked elegant. All right, I see what needs to be done. She mumbled something I didn't quite understand and then signaled by clapping her hands for attention. Everyone, I have something I need to tell you. The truth is, I'm Mr. Harrison's daughter. The confession was so sudden that the room fell silent for a moment. When we finally processed what she had said, everyone, including me, let out a collective "what?" I was just as shocked as the others. The reason I was the branch manager here was for training. My last name was a fake too. When I told my father I wanted to be the CEO one day, he said, "Then go and boost the performance at this branch." Courtney glanced around at all the employees. Thanks to Riley's success, I've achieved results that satisfied my father. He told me I could return to headquarters. I was thinking of bringing Riley back with me, but her eyes met mine, and my heart raced. I've been thinking about something else, like Riley. After working here, I realized I don't want to leave everyone behind. So after hearing Riley's thoughts, I decided I'm going to turn this branch into a subsidiary. The employees let out another collective gasp of surprise. Yesterday, I told Hugh about my plan to make this branch a subsidiary, and we've arranged for the contract to be signed with my new company. You'll get in trouble with Mr. Harrison for doing that without permission, Walter, clearly shocked, blurted out. Courtney stuck out her tongue playfully. I'm going to explain it to my father, Mr. Harrison, soon. Riley, will you come with me? Yes, please. With Courtney giving me that pleading look, there was no way I could refuse. The next day, Courtney and I arrived at headquarters. It hadn't even been a year since I left, but it felt strangely nostalgic. The work at the branch had left a strong impression on me. Courtney headed to the CEO's office, leaving me to do as I pleased. I wasn't sure what to do, so I decided to visit the development department. As awkward as it was, and as much as I feared their reactions, I wanted to apologize to them properly. I went back to the entrance and told the receptionist that I didn't have an appointment, but wanted to see someone from the development team. She contacted Isaiah, and I was granted permission to visit. With sweaty palms, I made my way to the development department. "Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt your work." I nervously stepped into the room where everyone was present. The office was filled with tense silence, and I couldn't help but shiver. I told myself it was from excitement, not fear. As I stood before them, I took a few big breaths and then spun the words as if I were shouting. "I caused all of you a lot of trouble when I was here. I was selfish, and I created a bad atmosphere. I'm truly sorry." The silence felt deafening. My heart pounded loudly in my chest. Then, the silence was broken by the sound of clapping. I looked up to see Isaiah applauding. "I've heard about your success at the branch. I heard you secured a big contract. Well done." No, it wasn't just me. It was thanks to everyone at the branch. Hearing that, Isaiah smiled. "You understood the last thing I told you, didn't you? As someone who once worked above you, it makes me proud to see how much you've grown." Then, my former colleagues, both peers and seniors, gathered around me. "Riley, you've become such a great guy. I didn't like the old you, but the new you, you're awesome. Congrats on sealing the deal. Keep selling our products, all right? We're counting on you." Hearing these words, tears welled up in my eyes. "Yes, I'll keep working hard as a salesperson to make sure all the products you pour your heart and soul into reach as many people as possible." The warm, friendly atmosphere made me smile naturally. Courtney's plan to turn our branch into a subsidiary was officially approved by Mr. Harrison. Even though we became a subsidiary, our work remained the same. We continued to work diligently, selling the products created by our parent company. And today, just like every day, we approach our work with sincerity. I'm the contact person with CL Company, and I'm working hard every day in sales to see if CL Company's Hugh will purchase the fruits of our company's efforts, which were conceived by our development department and completed by our manufacturing department with parts made by subcontractors, like the one my father works for. Hugh, the person I present the products to, usually buys most of them. Apparently, they sell really well. Thanks to that, our company's performance has improved, and both the parent company and our subsidiary are doing well. After a meeting with Hugh, I stopped by a nearby pet store to pick up some treats for Butterscotch, then returned to the office. "Butterscotch, I've got treats for you." I offered the treat to Butterscotch, who was basking in the sunlight near the entrance. He happily trotted over, the bell on his collar jingling softly. When our branch became a subsidiary, Butterscotch was officially named the company mascot. These moments, when I feed Butterscotch after returning from work, are a real comfort to me. As Butterscotch licked up the treat, melting my heart, I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Hey, top performer, you've got quite the contented look on your face." Courtney grinned, flashing her teeth. Her smile was as dazzling as ever, making me squint. "It's all thanks to you, Courtney. I really appreciate it." Well, look at you being all humble." "I like it." Courtney crouched down beside me and gently patted Butterscotch's head. "Butterscotch, you've been taking care of him on the weekends when the office is closed, right?" "Yeah, I just don't feel right leaving him alone." I smiled. "Actually, I just bought a house nearby." "What?" My shock startled Butterscotch, and his fur stood on end. I quickly apologized and stroked his neck. There was a house near the office that was being sold at a really low price, so I went for it. "Courtney, you're always so bold, like when you made this branch a subsidiary." I teased her, and she laughed a little, embarrassed. I hadn't meant it as a compliment, but her smile was so cute, I couldn't help but forgive her. That's why, from now on, I'm planning to take Butterscotch home with me. I always felt bad for having you take care of him at your place, especially since your dad isn't fond of cats. She was right. Ever since I started bringing Butterscotch home, I found out my father wasn't much of a cat person. but he never said anything about me looking after Butterscotch, remaining his usual silent self. So, I was grateful for Courtney's offer to take Butterscotch, but at the same time, I couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. Courtney must have noticed, as she chuckled softly. Besides, I'm new to owning a cat, so I'll need you to teach me. Why don't you come over and check out the new place? Sure, I'll bring Butterscotch with me. Courtney furrowed her brow, looking thoughtful. Actually, I was hoping the first time you come over it could just be you. Is that okay? Blushing, she glanced up at me with her eyes, and I couldn't refuse. The truth is, I've fallen for her. From the way she's acting, it seems like she feels the same way. When I visit her house, I'll confess my feelings to her. I made up my mind. The old me looked down on others and belittled them. Even after reflecting on my actions, my past self continued to hold me back. But my father, Courtney, and the new friends I made helped me move forward with gratitude for their support. I resolved to always move forward with humility and respect, no matter what lies ahead. What? Come on, people will still make fun of you if you spend an additional year retaking the entrance examinations to gain admission to a prestigious university. The entire family will be made fun of if my son marries someone who has a brother who just completed middle school, regardless of how great she is as a lawyer. I get chills just thinking about it. Given Jessica's remarkable history, I thought you were from an affluent family and that both of your siblings had completed college after your parents passed away. I should have investigated her brother. The fact that he just completed middle school is very embarrassing. I was shocked to hear these remarks from the individuals who would soon become my sister's in-laws. I never thought such things could be said. The relatives of this family continued to harass and abuse me during the wedding celebration. I can hardly express how shocked I was to discover the nameplate on the table. The words "middle school graduate loser" were scribbled clumsily across it in red marker. Rachel, my assistant, was astounded when she saw it as well. She grumbled, "If these are the people running that clinic, maybe it wouldn't be such a loss if it went under." The groom's family initially laughed, but as soon as they found out who I was and where I was now, I could see that their faces became pale. I'm 37 years old, and my name is Kevin Turner. My father's friend owns the medical equipment business where I work. Jessica is the name of my sister. I'm currently traveling to her wedding celebration. The 27-year-old Jessica is getting married to Adam. After completing medical school, he is currently employed at a university hospital as a surgeon. After Jessica, a hospital corporate lawyer, successfully settled a case in which Adam was accused of medical misconduct, she started dating him. As their relationship developed rapidly, they made the decision to tie the knot. I'll be going to Mom and Dad's grave soon to tell them the news. Yes, that is a wise decision. I said, I believe it's the right thing to do. Recollections of everything that had happened since our parents died came flooding back to me as I spoke these words to Jessica. 20 years or so ago, a house fire claimed the lives of our parents. Jessica was still in elementary school at the time, and I was a sophomore in high school. Our lives were completely upended by the unexpected death of our parents. We lost our place to reside when the fire destroyed our house. We'd briefly lived with Sean, a friend of my father's, but before I graduated from high school, we made the decision to move into an apartment. Sean had offered to stay until I graduated, but I persisted since I didn't want to be dependent on him any longer. Sean did his best to convince me to at least complete high school, but after much consideration, I had already made up my mind. We were able to pay for living expenses for a while thanks to the funds our parents had given us and the insurance money we received. A man named Nathan referred me to a job, which is how I got my first employment. I still have a lot of gratitude for Nathan. It was difficult to live each day with the burden of losing our parents and constantly worrying about money, but I advised Jessica to stop thinking about money and to continue living her life as she had before, always attempting to keep things positive. She learned that I had left high school to work when she got to middle school. Is attending high school truly acceptable for me? You're already working after all. She began to suggest things like, after middle school, shouldn't I start working too? What are you discussing? Why do you suppose I'm at work? It is my duty to assist you in maturing. Naturally, it is my responsibility to take care of you as your big brother. Yes, but you're the only one making sacrifices, aren't you? I wonder if this is acceptable. Don't consider it a sacrifice. Everything is all right. All I want is for you to attend high school and graduate stress-free. In addition, Nathan helped me land a job that I truly love, and I wasn't that excellent in school anyhow. What? Really? So that I can attend high school after all? Obviously. You're quite intelligent. Please do your best in school and continue to be the proud little sister I know you are. I get it. Big brother, I'm also proud of you. Jessica then focused entirely on her studies and continued on to high school. She was always very dedicated to her studies and constantly placed at the top of her class, perhaps because she felt appreciative of me. Nevertheless, she appeared determined to get employment after graduation, most likely out of consideration for me. During the three-way discussion with her teacher to discuss her future plans, she firmly stated, I'm going to get a job after I graduate from high school. Her teacher, Mr. Thompson, appeared somewhat taken aback. With grades like Jessica's, she could easily get into a university that grants tuition exemptions and scholarships. He urged her, adding, I understand your financial situation. Like Mr. Thompson, I did. Don't stress over tuition. Why you insist so much? Isn't Mr. Thompson even providing assistance? Well, it's hard to know you're making sacrifices for me. Don't you have things you want to do? You're putting everything aside just to prioritize me. I can't be the only one who gets to finish high school and then go to college. And even with scholarships, they wouldn't cover everything. I'll cover whatever is missing. My performance at work is being recognized, and my salary is expected to go up soon, so covering your tuition won't be an issue. Look, don't think twice about it. If your grades were only good enough to get into a second-tier college, like mine were even after working hard, I wouldn't be saying all this. But with your current grades, you can get into a great university. That'll open up so many more opportunities for you. If it makes you feel better, we can treat whatever I cover as a loan. When you get a good job after graduating, then you can pay me back. Do you know how many years it would take me to get through college? You'd be living on a tight budget all that time. Are you really okay with that? Come on, we've supported each other since we lost Mom and Dad. There's no reason for you to hold back. If you're willing to go that far, then I'll go to college. Thank you. Really? Thank you, big brother. Though it took some persuasion, Jessica finally agreed to pursue further education. Seeing our conversation, Mr. Thompson discreetly dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief. Jessica declared she would aim for the law school at a prestigious university. It was one of the toughest programs in Japan to get into, but Jessica faced the pressure head-on and passed the entrance exams on her first try. She graduated with honors, never needing to repeat a course. While in university, she passed the preliminary legal exam and later the bar exam as well. She was so exceptional that I sometimes wondered if we were even related. Then she joined her current law firm during a summer clerkship, and after the exams, they offered her a position without hesitation. Now, Jessica is a highly successful attorney. At the time, I didn't understand why she wanted to become a lawyer. It turned out that seeing me struggle with legal paperwork after our parents passed away, and we lost our home, left her feeling helpless. She wanted to use her knowledge to help others in need, just like we had been. When I first learned of Jessica's motivation, I was truly moved by her thoughtfulness. If she hadn't gone to college, she wouldn't have become the lawyer she is today. I'm incredibly grateful to Mr. Thompson for encouraging her to continue her education, and I'm glad I convinced her. Adam, Jessica's fiancé, also knew about our history. It seems he was drawn to Jessica not only for her skills as a lawyer, but also for her sincerity, which led him to ask her out. I've heard a lot about you from Jessica. How you stepped in to protect her after your parents passed away. Oh please, protect is a bit much. We've simply helped each other along. I replied modestly, though I felt incredibly proud of the woman Jessica had become. I deeply wish for Jessica's happiness. With this marriage, I plan to celebrate it wholeheartedly. But reality can be harsh, and one concern weighed on me. I had the opportunity to meet Adam along with his parents for a formal introduction and face-to-face meeting. However, during that encounter, something happened that made me feel uneasy. The meeting took place at the restaurant of the hotel where the two of them planned to hold their wedding reception. Adam's father, Keith Knox, is also a doctor and runs his own clinic. He appeared to be in his early 60s, with his intelligent yet somewhat intense demeanor making him look every bit the part of a physician. I informed Mr. and Mrs. Knox that I was there on behalf of our late parents. I've heard about your parents from Adam. It must have been a challenging time for both of you. Yes, we did go through difficult times, but looking back now, it wasn't all bad. Oh my, such a mature perspective for someone so young. I'd expect nothing less from the brother of the accomplished Jessica. No. Jessica's always had it together compared to me. She's done so much better. She makes me look inadequate in comparison. I wasn't just being modest, I genuinely meant it. Jessica truly is the kind of sister where finding a flaw is nearly impossible. Even so, raising Jessica in place of your parents and supporting her through a top university, your own background must be quite impressive. Yes, surely that's the case. So, what do you do for a living now? I'm currently working at the company of a friend of my late father's. The moment I answered, the smiles on their faces vanished. And what kind of work do you do there? I mainly handle sales and distribution for medical equipment. Sales and distribution at a medical equipment company. If you don't mind me asking, which university did you attend? I didn't go to university. I joined my current company after dropping out of high school. What? Wait just a moment. When they said that, the two of them briefly glanced at Adam and Jessica, as if to observe their reactions. It was just the moment when Adam and Jessica were prompted by the venue staff to preview their wedding outfits, so they were about to head over there. Once the two had left, their expressions turned harsh, and they leaned toward me, closing the distance. Tell me, are you saying you didn't even graduate from high school? Yes, that's right. So you only have a middle school education? Yes. This is unbelievable. Had we known, we wouldn't have approved of this marriage. Indeed, even now, we should consider halting things and discuss this again as a family. Now hold on. The wedding date has already been announced. Calling it off now would be difficult. Besides, Jessica remains an ideal bride. Yes, she's not the problem here. Excuse me, but what exactly are you trying to say? Don't act like you don't know. You're a huge problem. Look, we run a clinic, and our entire family is well established. Many run businesses or hold senior positions in large corporations. Every single one of them attended a reputable university. It's a basic expectation. Ha, I see. You say that response is just so lacking. Don't you understand what we're getting at? I knew they weren't happy with my educational background, but their abrupt change in attitude left me too stunned to respond properly. In our family, it's considered shameful if someone even has to repeat a year to get into a good university. You probably don't understand, but having a questionable academic record is already a disgrace. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. Let me be clear. Even someone who has to retake exams to get into a top school would be laughed at if people knew our son married a woman with a middle school graduate brother. Just the thought of the ridicule makes me shudder. I'd assumed you came from a wealthy family and that both siblings would have attended university. Even after losing your parents, I thought Jessica's impeccable background made it unnecessary to investigate you. I never expected, never even imagined, you be a middle school graduate. It's truly embarrassing." The words were so humiliating I was left speechless. Still, with things this far along, "In that case, we'll inform the family that Jessica and you are only nominally related, a mere formality. You must promise never to claim you raised her in place of your parents. Do you understand?" "What? Excuse me?" I replied, stunned. "Don't act so resistant. People like you, once part of the family, always find ways to beg for money or sneak into inheritance plans. I'm sure you'd do something like that." "Exactly. Listen closely. This is a warning. You will not loiter around Jessica, nor will you bring up loans or investments to us. I expect you to promise this here and now. If you don't, we'll cut ties immediately or, better yet, have our lawyer ensure you can't get near us. This isn't a threat. Do you understand?" I couldn't believe these words were coming from Jessica's future in-laws. I'd never experienced such an insulting encounter. I barely managed to hold back my anger and remained there quietly. If I let Jessica know the humiliation I just endured, it might disrupt her relationship with Adam. They're a perfect match, and the last thing I wanted was for their relationship to fall apart. There's no need to worry. I won't ask you or Jessica for any money in any form, now or ever. Poof. We'll remember you said that. Any suspicious behavior, and we won't hesitate to take action. But there's one thing I must make clear. Jessica and I have supported each other all these years. No matter your request, I won't cut ties with her. I'm not going to stop seeing her, and I won't compromise on that. What an outrage. This is nothing short of harassment. You should contact a lawyer right away. Mrs. Knox spat angrily. Just as Mrs. Knox was about to berate me further, Adam and Jessica returned after checking their wedding attire. The Knoxes instantly put on cheerful expressions, as if nothing had happened. From that point on, both the Knoxes and I maintained our composure in front of the couple, somehow getting through the interaction. Until the day of the wedding reception, I naturally didn't have any more encounters with the Knoxes. I hadn't shared a word with Jessica about what had transpired that day. However, I had told the woman accompanying me to the reception, Rachel, about it. Rachel is an important partner to me, both personally and professionally. We plan to marry soon, and she's close to Jessica as well. Jessica had also invited her, so she was attending the reception with me. At first, I hadn't intended to tell anyone about the humiliation I experienced with the Knoxes, but Rachel quickly sensed something weighing on me. Deep down, I think I wanted someone to listen, so I ended up confiding in her. "So today's the day you're going to put those horribly rude in-laws in their place, right?" Rachel asked, grinning. "What? No way. If I did that, it would ruin the ceremony. Besides, I'm not interested in taking any action that would disrupt the day, regardless of what's happened." "Oh, what a shame. I thought you brought me along as backup for just that reason." "Come on, this isn't some showdown." "Ah, boring." "Well, it didn't insult me directly, but it still ticks me off. Still, it's Jessica's big day, so I won't do anything too wild." "Maybe I was too hasty in sharing this with you," I said, laughing. We looked at each other and laughed. Rachel's fiery spirit sometimes threw me off, but more often than not, she had my back. Having her by my side gave me a sense of security in many ways. When we arrived at the venue, we began looking for the seats reserved for the bride's family. Since Adam is a doctor and Jessica a lawyer, the wedding was extravagant, with many guests in attendance. Even from across the room, I quickly spotted the Knoxes seated at the far end of the groom's family section. I made sure to avoid direct eye contact with them to prevent any unnecessary confrontation. There they are at the far end. They're looking over here with the most spiteful smiles, Rachel informed me, keeping an eye on the Knoxes. Figures. Well, if all I have to endure are a few laughs from them, that's fine. The most important thing today is celebrating Jessica and Adam. I don't want to waste a thought on anything trivial. With that, we found Rachel's seat first. Then I looked at the nameplate on the seat beside hers, where I assumed mine would be. What? My mind went blank. Where my name should have been written, there was no sign of it. Instead, scrawled messily in red marker were the words, "Middle school graduate loser." No one but the Knoxes could have pulled off a childish prank like this. I instinctively shot a glare toward the groom's family section. The Knoxes, along with a few nearby family members, were watching me and bursting into laughter. Clearly, my academic background had become a source of amusement among the relatives. The Knoxes must have set this up in advance, informing everyone and watching to see my reaction as I discovered the nameplate. Their sense of humor was truly revolting. Seeing me freeze momentarily upon reading those words only seemed to make them laugh harder. Mrs. Knox was even clapping her hands in delight, laughing openly. What awful people. But with the venue bustling with lively conversations and the occasional cheer, no one else seemed to notice the scene at their table. I decided to leave without taking my seat. If I sat there quietly, they'd continue laughing at me endlessly. And who knows, this might just be the start, with more insults lined up. As much as I regretted it, I couldn't endure any more humiliation. However, Rachel quickly came after me, grabbing my arm to stop me. "You've been holding back all this time just to celebrate Jessica and Adam today, right? Don't forget how Jessica would feel if she noticed you weren't there." "Yeah, you're right. If I was going to get angry, I should have done it the first time they insulted me. I promised myself I'd hold it in for Jessica and Adam, but I was about to totally lose it. If you hadn't been here, I'd have stormed out by now. Thank you." Ignoring the sneers and finger-pointing from the Knoxes, I focused back on the celebration. Before long, the bride and groom, our main stars, entered the room to enthusiastic applause. The guest speeches began soon after, starting with Dr. Smith, the director of Adams Hospital, and then Miss Taylor, the head of Jessica's law firm. We also heard from friends and the groom's family members. But then, as all the speeches finished, I realized my turn had never come. Jessica had asked me to give a speech, and I prepared it with my whole heart. Even though the groom's family speeches had concluded, none of the staff had come to let me know it was my turn. When I checked with one of the nearby staff, they gave me a surprising response. After confirming, it appeared that just before the ceremony began, one of the groom's family members requested that the bride's family representative's speech be canceled, stating it wasn't prepared. So it was removed from the schedule. I turned my gaze back to the Knoxes. Sure enough, they were whispering to each other, laughing quietly while looking my way. I'd reached my limit. I moved along the wall, trying not to interrupt anything, making my way over to where the Knoxes were. Rachel followed me silently. The Knoxes looked at me with eyes full of disdain. "What on earth are you trying to pull, huh? What are you talking about? I think the question is better asked of you. Do you really not remember what I told you the other day?" "What? Just what are you talking about?" "Oh, really? Have you forgotten already, or do you just lack the understanding? If so, that's truly unfortunate." They waved their hands as if brushing me off. "What do you think you're doing, canceling my speech like that? Don't be ridiculous. The fact that you'd even consider speaking is absurd. Once we realized you intended to go through with it, we had no choice but to take proper measures. Having an uneducated man speak at my son's wedding would be a lifelong embarrassment. We're simply doing what any responsible parents would do." Around us, I noticed some of the groom's family stifling laughs. "And what right do you have to insult me? Did you really think you could be treated as an equal? Know your place, you worthless fool. Don't talk to me again. I'll be handling this legally. If you approach us or our family again, we'll make sure you pay for it. Keep that in mind." As I trembled with anger, barely holding back a shout, Rachel, who had been watching silently, finally spoke. "Mr. Turner, I never imagined they'd be so rude. I'm truly shocked." I I don't think you need to hold back any more about the clinic's future business. And who are you to interfere in family matters? Oh, I was merely giving Mr. Turner my business opinion. Excuse me, Mr. Turner. Who you think you're talking about? I wasn't speaking to you. This is between Mr. Kevin Turner and myself. Please don't trouble yourself with our conversation. What? Mr. Kevin Turner? Yes, the man standing before you is the president, Mr. Kevin Turner. Oh, so he's some small-town company president now? And what does this grand president plan to do? Rachel pulled up the company president greeting page on her phone and handed it to Keith. At first, Keith looked at it reluctantly, with a hint of skepticism in his eyes. But then his expression suddenly tightened. Honey, what's wrong? Isn't this the medical equipment company our clinic works with? No way. I'm not falling for such a lousy joke. That's fine. After all, this is just my phone. Why don't you check on your own device? Flustered, he pulled out his own phone and quickly found my company's page. As he reached the president's introduction with my picture, his face turned pale. No, this has to be some kind of trick. With that, Keith stood up, turned his back to us for a moment, and seemed to start talking to someone on his phone. He was likely calling someone at his clinic to confirm if what we said was true. Last month, I had taken on the role of president of this company at the request of a friend of my father's. I had only recently stepped into this position. The daughter of my father's friend is Rachel. This friend, to whom I owe a great debt, had been in poor health for a while and had decided to pass the company to his daughter. He also expressed his wish for me and Rachel to marry. It's been nearly 20 years since I, a middle school graduate, started working at this company. Now, I know more about the inner workings here than anyone else. He said he couldn't imagine entrusting his daughter to anyone else but me. I proposed to Rachel, and we decided to marry, determined to build up the company together. Now Rachel and I are essential partners both in life and business. While her official title is secretary, she is, in effect, my co-manager. Her influence in the company is as strong as mine as president. With Rachel speaking so decisively, I knew our company could end its contract with the clinic at any time. The immediate cessation of business with the clinic won't impact our company. Very well. Let's proceed with that right away. Wait. You don't need to decide something so crucial here on the spot, do you? Let's take a moment to talk things over calmly. Oh, that's odd. Weren't you the one who said any further discussions would have to go through lawyers and that I'd be liable if I spoke too hastily? I'd be too terrified to answer lightly. Well, how impudent. Mr. Turner has said he doesn't want to supply products to a clinic run by people like you. Feel free to reject our business if you prefer. Well, I have never heard such rude words from a woman. She's like a monster. A monster. I think you're the far scarier ones here. My goodness. Say something to them, will you? Enough. You stay out of this. You're only complicating things, Keith said, holding his head in his hands. Lost deep in thought, he kept shifting his gaze back and forth between me and his family members, genuinely torn between preserving his clinic's success and upholding his family's honor. I couldn't understand the concept of preserving family pride to such an extent. This just won't do. The fact that you're a middle school graduate is unacceptable. Our family prides itself on being highly educated. But could we renegotiate the terms to continue the deal? We'd even pay extra for the equipment if we could keep doing business. If we lose this contract, it would be a real issue for us. After all, finding a new business partner isn't easy for either of us, right? Don't you agree? I heard Rachel sigh deeply. This conversation is over. After delivering our current products, we'll be terminating our business relationship with your clinic. You're free to find other suppliers for your medical equipment needs. What? I'm offering this after all, but that's your response. And from someone who didn't even finish high school. There was no hope here. Exasperated, I turned away without a word. In that instant, he snapped. "You bastard," he yelled, lunging at me from behind. Caught off guard, I lost my balance and leaned back. It was at that moment. "What are you doing?" I looked back to see that Rachel had deftly blocked his hand, knocked him off balance with a sweep of her leg, and sent him sprawling to the floor. The room fell silent as people turned to see what had happened, but Rachel calmly explained to the staff that he'd stumbled in his drunken state. Looking over to the relatives' table, I saw the groom's family wide-eyed and silent, watching us without a word. I turned and returned to my seat. Rachel sat next to me, looking as if nothing had happened. The ceremony continued smoothly from there. The staff graciously arranged a last-minute slot for me to give my speech near the end of the event, and the room filled with applause. Seeing the bride and groom's happy faces filled me with emotion. That was such a heartfelt and beautiful speech. It truly showed how much you care for Jessica. Thank you so much for today. I was genuinely grateful to have shared this day with Rachel. A few days after the wedding, our company officially terminated its contract with his clinic. While the clinic may now struggle with equipment shortages that affect patient care, it's no longer my concern. When Adam learned the truth, he came to me in tears, apologizing for his parents' rudeness. I assured him I had no intention of making a big deal of the matter and that things between us wouldn't change. Relieved, he went home. Later, however, I heard from my sister that he'd severed ties with his family. With Jessica's support, he'd taken legal steps to ensure that any contact from his family would incur penalties. He'd learned from his relatives' own overuse of legal threats and swiftly turned the tables on them. To be honest, I was truly relieved. I believed that Jessica and her husband cutting ties with those relatives was for the best. Next up is you two. Yes, you and Rachel deserve happiness too, big brother. Right? I can't wait to see Rachel as a bride. She's going to look stunning. Lately, I've been getting more and more gentle nudges from my sister and her husband, urging me to marry Rachel. Rachel and I exchanged a smile, saying, "One of these days." Grateful for this happiness, I threw myself into my work with renewed dedication. Hey, this is what I get for making you the manager. Since you recently took over, I excused it last month, but this month's stats are similarly lower than they were the previous year. What would happen if you performed poorly for 2 consecutive months? The chief of the division, Michael, told me this. I apologize. We've lost a lot of customers to Newcastle Electronics since they opened 2 months ago, I stated, because their store is closer to the station. Michael answered, I am aware of that. Why are there so many excuses? Incompetents are worthless because of this. A drawback of the store I oversaw was its distance from the station. Additionally, Castle Electronics had been heavily advertising, and our store was smaller. It felt unjust to place all the blame on me because, of course, this was something that the organization needed to solve. Section Chief Daniel stepped in to help me. That's unjust, Michael. James has no influence over the problems his store is facing. Castle Electronics' extensive advertising isn't helping, and the location is a drawback. Michael, however, brushed him off. Are you all attempting to shift your accountability to the business? What are your pay and title for? The management is solely to blame for the store's bad performance. It indicates that you lack competence. I reasoned that if such were the case, the division head would be held accountable for the division's general subpar performance. However, I was unable to express that aloud. Additionally, we had underpaid overtime and a very low income at our company. I didn't understand Michael's reasoning. It seemed unconvincing to be told to put in a lot of effort for very little money. Would it be simpler if I simply accepted it and believed that I only needed to put in more effort? Is it improper for a paid worker to ask their employer questions? I was thinking about these things when I heard something startling. There's no need for you to come in tomorrow, James. You've been fired. For a second, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Michael's statement caused the other store managers in the room to freeze. Daniel made another attempt to step in. That's too much, Michael. Come on. Let's stop there since James is aware that he needs to raise the figures. What are you talking about, Daniel? Michael said icily. I don't make jokes. James has been dismissed as of right now. You better increase your numbers, the rest of you, if you don't want to suffer the same destiny. The manager's meeting ends there. He walked out of the room. I'm James, and I'm 35. I had spent 10 years working for TKD Electronics, a significant retailer of electronics. I worked as a part-time job for a long time after being hired as a full-time employee because I only completed a technical school. Just 2 years ago, I was able to secure a full-time position. Since I was a student, I have been an introvert who would rather discuss common interests with a select group of pals than interact with the entire class. I decided to go a technical school for programming rather than a university, since I felt that I wasn't cut out for occupations that required a lot of communication skills. After graduating, I searched for positions in system management and development because I enjoyed working alone on a computer. I eventually came across a job advertising for my current employer. I was informed during the interview that it was a hands-on company. I began working as a retail employee after getting employed. I was informed that I would be transferred to an appropriate department once I had gained practical experience. I anticipated working in the store for a year or so before transferring to the assistant department. But after 2 and then 3 years, I was still working at the business. Furthermore, there was no indication of promotion from part-time to full-time status. For 2, then 3 years, that state of affairs persisted. My supervisors ignored my frequent requests for a transfer amid contract renewals. One could conclude after hearing this story that I ought to have changed careers sooner. However, I had a rationale for continuing for 10 years. I had to deal with customers at the business, which made my communication difficulties better. You had to utilize your conversational abilities to persuade the person in front of you to purchase the product in a workplace with intimidating elders where sales figures were crucial. Individual sales goals were set, and not meeting them resulted in reprimands. I couldn't sell anything on my own at first, but I improved over time with practice. Being able to sell indicated that my speaking abilities had improved by my 2nd and 3rd years. Thanks to my job, I could now talk to various types of people, unlike in my private life, where I struggled with conversations beyond close friends. I even ran into an old classmate in town who remarked, "James, you've become more outgoing." So I decided to work hard at my job until I could transfer to a system-related department where I excelled. 2 years ago, I finally got promoted to store manager. I should have been happy, especially since I became a full-time employee, but I was also anxious. Initially, I was assigned to a store with a good location and easy sales. Both the section chief and division head were reliable mentors, so I worked hard with a sense of purpose. But things went downhill when I was transferred to my current store. The store was far from the station, in a bad location, and a Newcastle electronics store had just opened near the station. As a result, we lost even more customers to them, making it a challenging store for me to manage as the new manager. Despite the challenges, we worked together to try various strategies to boost sales. However, there were limits to what I could do as a store manager, and it was difficult to come up with strategies that could turn things around under such unfavorable conditions. "James, it's a tough store, but let's do our best together." Daniel, whom I trusted, always encouraged me. I motivated myself to work hard every day. The division head, David, was also someone I trusted, like Daniel. But my luck ran out when he was replaced at this critical time. A new division head, Michael, who was 5 years older than me, took over, and suddenly, the pressure on me increased dramatically. Other store managers are working hard, so what are you doing? Do you even realize you're in charge of a store? Oh, and I heard you didn't go to college. No wonder you can't hit the numbers. That's why technical school grads are useless, Michael would say to me at every opportunity. He would say this in front of my juniors. Some of them sympathized with me, saying, "Michael is really harsh," while others gossiped, "Did you know James only went to a technical school?" Daniel knew how tough Michael was on me and often encouraged me. However, Michael outranked him, so there were many things Daniel couldn't do to help. I tried to keep myself motivated. However, the numbers at a store with such bad conditions didn't improve quickly. 2 months after being transferred to the current store, I attended the monthly manager meeting at the head office conference room. Feeling gloom, I thought about how this month's sales were far from the target. I was certain I would be scolded by the division head. I opened the door to the conference room. I had arrived very early, so no one else was there yet. I took my designated seat and waited for the other store managers, Daniel and Michael, to arrive. Once everyone, including Daniel, was present, it was time for the meeting to start. Under Michael's leadership, the meeting involved each manager standing up in turn to report their sales and issues, receiving feedback on the spot. When Michael entered the room, everyone stood up quickly, and the meeting began under a tense atmosphere. Each store manager reported their monthly sales in turn. Since we were going in seating order, my turn was last. After listening to everyone else's reports, it was finally my turn. Fully aware that my numbers were nothing to be proud of, I had no choice but to report the facts. I read out the figures for the month. As soon as I started speaking, Michael shouted, "Hey, I made you the manager, and this is what I get. Last month, I let it slide because you just took over, but this month's numbers are also down compared to last year. Do you know what happens if your performance is worse for 2 months in a row?" Everyone in the room went silent, barely daring to breathe. "I'm sorry. The Newcastle Electronics store opened 2 months ago, and it's closer to the station, so we've lost a lot of customers to them," I explained. Michael responded, "I know that. What's with the excuses? This is why incompetents are useless." Daniel came to my aid, saying, "The store James is managing is far from the station, which is a disadvantage. Our store is also smaller, and Castle Electronics has been advertising aggressively. Of course, we need to address this as a company, so putting all the responsibility on James is unfair." Michael dismissed him, snapping, "Are you guys trying to pass off your responsibilities onto the company? What's the point of your title and salary? The store's poor performance is entirely the manager's responsibility. It means you're incompetent." I thought to myself, if that's the case, then the overall poor performance of the division is the division head's responsibility, right? But I couldn't say that out loud. Our company's salary was quite low, and we had unpaid overtime. His arguments didn't make sense to me because being told to work hard for such low pay was not convincing. Would it be easier if I just accepted it and told myself that I needed to work harder? Is it wrong for a salaried employee to question their boss? While I was mulling over these thoughts, I heard something shocking. "So James, you don't need to come in tomorrow. You're fired." I couldn't believe my ears for a moment. I could feel the other store managers in the room freezing up as well. Michael's words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Daniel tried to intervene again. "Come on, Michael, that's too much. James understands he needs to improve the numbers, so let's leave it at that." Michael replied, "What are you talking about? I never joke. James is fired as of today. The rest of you, if you don't want the same fate, you'd better raise your numbers. That's the end of the manager's meeting." He left the room. Some people looked at me with pity, while others pretended not to notice. The atmosphere was awful. "James, don't worry. I'll talk to Michael later. Everyone knows it's not your fault," Daniel said, patting me on the shoulder. I appreciated the encouragement, but I thought Michael might actually fire me, and there were limits to what Daniel could do. That day, I had to go back to my store and work, but it was hard to keep a positive attitude and smile while serving customers. The next day was my day off. The store is open year-round, so we work on a shift basis. On my days off, the assistant manager and other staff handle the store, but as the manager, I always have a mountain of tasks to do. I often drop by the store even on my days off. However, after the emotional blow from the previous day's manager meeting, I decided to take a proper break and relax at home. A notification sound from my phone indicated a new message. It was from John, the assistant manager. Checking the message, I saw this. A new manager has arrived at the store today, but I wasn't informed beforehand, and I'm confused. I heard you've resigned. Is that true? Lying down and looking at my phone, I was so shocked that I jumped up and shouted, "What?" in my empty house. I hurried to call John, but then thought he might not be able to talk during work. So I replied via message. "I haven't heard anything about that. Can you call me after work?" I sent the message to John and immediately called the company. I didn't know who would answer, but it was likely to be Daniel or Michael. "Hello, TKD Electronics," Michael's voice answered. Recognizing him, I quickly spoke over him. "Michael, were you serious about what you said yesterday? That I'm fired?" He laughed. "Oh, it's you, James. Did you think I was joking? How naive. You really thought you could stay with those numbers? Someone as useless as you isn't employable anywhere. Go find another part-time job if you can." This couldn't be happening. I was at a loss. But refusing to be defeated, I quickly thought and said, "Michael, please give me another chance. I'll increase sales." "Another chance? How long do you need?" "Your chance is over. I was lenient your first month, wasn't I? But you blew it this month too. Goodbye. You need to sign your resignation papers by tomorrow. It's an order from the division head." He refused to listen and hung up. Realizing it was pointless to argue, I had no choice but to hang up. The next day, still unable to fully believe it, I went to the company. Michael indeed had the resignation papers ready, and I was made to sign them. Daniel, looking apologetic, said quietly, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, James. This is my failure too." "It's not your fault, Daniel. I couldn't deliver either," I replied before packing up my desk and leaving the company. Outside, I looked up at the sky. I had worked so hard for 10 years, never expecting to leave so abruptly. I recalled the previous night. After the store closed at 9:00 p.m., John called me. "I'm sorry for calling late. We just finished closing the store," John said, out of breath. "Thanks for calling, even though you're busy," I replied, thanking him. John began to explain just how tough the day had been. When I came in for my late shift, there was a stranger at the register. When I asked Emily, who was on the early shift, she said he was the new manager. I was surprised, but I thought it was a sudden personnel change, and you hadn't had time to inform me. Then Michael came and said James has resigned, so we need to follow the new manager's orders, John continued, clearly upset. Then the new manager started changing the store layout, making it difficult for customers and us to find products. After causing a mess, he told us to put everything back the way it was. Now we have to clean up on our own, and we don't know when we'll finish. I was shocked by John's account. That's unbelievable. He just left after making a mess, I asked. Yes, he left after causing chaos, John replied. Then he said we couldn't log overtime and should mark it as leaving on time. When I was stunned, he said, "With such poor sales, we can't afford extra labor costs. You understand that as the assistant manager, right?" "I don't think I can work with this new manager," John lamented. I felt a sense of crisis, realizing things were really going wrong. However, having been fired, I felt helpless, unable to do anything about it. I told John that being fired at the manager's meeting was not my decision, and that he could always talk to me if he had any problems. Life is tough, I muttered to myself, looking up at the sky as an unemployed man. But I couldn't keep dwelling on it forever. I had worked hard for 10 years at TKD Electronics, but the world was bigger than this. With nothing left to lose, I decided it was time to start something new. I shifted my mindset and began thinking about what to do next. Returning home, I calmed down and realized I needed to find a job. I opened my computer and started looking into job sites. Though it had been a while since I last searched for a job, I found the variety of job types had changed a lot since my student days. It was interesting. I reminisced about my student days when I was looking for jobs in system management and development. Never did I imagine I'd be working in retail for so long. Life is truly unpredictable. As I scrolled through the job listings on the site, one ad caught my eye: Castle Electronics Corporation. It was TKD Electronics' rival and arguably the reason I got fired. If Castle Electronics hadn't opened near my store, our sales wouldn't have dropped so much, and I wouldn't have been scolded by the division head. How interesting fate is. Before I knew it, I found myself applying for a position at Castle Electronics. The next day, I received a call from Castle Electronics' HR department. They scheduled an interview, so at least I wasn't being outright rejected. On the day of the interview, I dressed in a suit, feeling somewhat indifferent, thinking I'd probably be rejected anyway. Sure, having experience in the same industry might help, but TKD Electronics was significantly smaller and less reputable compared to Castle Electronics. I figured the interviewers would probably just look down on me. Castle Electronics is a rapidly growing company popular among the younger generation. Most of the interviewees were in their 20s. Having worked at TKD Electronics for 10 years, I found myself in my mid-30s, almost 40, facing this harsh reality. The fresh, young faces looking to switch jobs after gaining 3 years of experience somewhere else were dazzling. So dazzling that I jokingly thought I should have brought sunglasses. I waited in the hallway for my turn. "Next, please," I heard, and entered the room. The interviewer was a woman. I introduced myself, bowed, and sat down when she gestured for me to do so. She asked the usual questions about my education, and I answered them. Next, she would undoubtedly ask about my work history and the reason for leaving my last job. I was nervous. Admitting I was fired for poor sales performance as a manager would be the worst possible explanation. Should I lie? No, I had to be honest. While I was contemplating this, the interviewer asked a surprising question. "James, what do you value most in life?" Caught off guard, I hesitated but replied, "Well, I want to do what I'm good at, earn a living from it, and enjoy my life." I realized halfway through that it wasn't the right answer for an interview. I should have highlighted what I could bring to the company. For example, I could have said that while I didn't hit the sales numbers, I was a trusted team leader. No, that wouldn't have been much of an appeal either. Then the interviewer asked, "What are you good at, James?" This seemed more like a typical interview question. How should I answer? Given my extensive experience in customer service at TKD Electronics, and considering this was an interview with Castle Electronics, I decided to highlight my skills in the electronics retail industry. I have achieved top individual sales in my area. I have extensive experience in customer service, I answered honestly, since it wasn't a lie. The interviewer then asked, "What are you good at or passionate about outside of the skills you've developed at work?" After thinking for a while, I replied, "Well, I like programming. I went to a technical school to develop my skills, so I enjoy working on computers and I'm good at programming." She then said, "I see. Thank you for your time today," abruptly ending the interview. I said, "Thank you," and left the room, letting out a sigh. I was sure I had failed. I knew from the start that there was no way I would get the job, but I still went to the interview because I had a tiny bit of hope. I felt completely crushed. My interview felt shorter than the others, almost like I was being dismissed outright. Exhausted, I decided to start job hunting with renewed vigor. The next day, I registered with a recruitment agency and set up a meeting. Failures make me stronger. To reflect on my failure at the Castle Electronics interview, I watched videos and read books about interview techniques. As night fell and I took a break, my phone rang. Seeing an unknown number, I cautiously answered. A woman's voice said, "This is Jessica from Castle Electronics." I was so surprised that I jumped up from my chair. "Thank you for coming in for an interview yesterday, regarding the result. So this company even calls those who didn't make it? What a courteous and nice company," I thought. "It's really too bad I won't get to work there." As I was lost in thought, the woman continued, "We would like to offer you the position. Can you come in tomorrow?" "Did you say I got the job?" I instinctively asked for confirmation. The woman on the other end replied in a clear, cheerful voice, "Yes. Can you start working right away? Your annual salary will be $200,000. What? Life is interesting because you never know what will happen. And so, a year passed since that event. I was having dinner after work, dining with John, the previous assistant manager from TKD Electronics, and Daniel, who used to be a section chief. It's been a long time. "I'm glad to see you both doing well," I said after a long time apart. "John, you took over your family's farm, right? You look a bit tanned but healthy," Daniel added. John, who had left the company before Daniel, replied, "Both of us had gotten fed up with TKD Electronics' ways and quit shortly after you did. Daniel now works for another major company. That company is none other than Castle Electronics Corporation, where I currently work. You guys are amazing, earning $100,000 a year. Meanwhile, I'm struggling with the hard work on the farm," John said. "Well, it's not physically hard since I have the stamina, but this summer's drought made it tough to grow crops. Then the hurricane damaged the vegetables that had grown. But all in all, things are going well. Most importantly, I enjoy the work." John shared his recent experiences. "John, when James invited you to Castle Electronics, you said, 'I'm done with corporate jobs.' That was a bold move," Daniel said. I, on the other hand, immediately said, "I'm in." By the way, James isn't just a $100,000 earner. He makes $200,000 a year, Daniel added with a laugh. "That's right. After getting hired at Castle Electronics, I headhunted John and Daniel, who had tough times at TKD Electronics. John declined, but Daniel now works with me as a colleague. I had that authority because Castle Electronics is a meritocracy that values ability over educational background or years of service. James, you knew the competition was tough when you applied to Castle Electronics, right? What do you think led to your success?" John asked. "I haven't told you this story yet. During the interview, I was sure I'd failed. But then I got a call saying I was hired and started the next day. On my first day, I had time to talk with the president and the interviewer, and I learned an amazing fact," I answered. When I said that, John leaned forward and exclaimed, "An amazing fact," eager to hear more. It turns out that Jessica, the woman who interviewed me, was a year ahead of me at the aita technical school I attended. I didn't know her, but I was somewhat famous for my good grades, so she knew of me. Coincidentally, she had bought appliances from me at TKD Electronics and remembered my good customer service. John reacted with excitement. "Wow, that's an incredible coincidence. So Jessica had a very positive impression of you both in school and as a salesperson." That was essentially correct, but I felt awkward saying, "Yeah, isn't that impressive?" So I stayed silent. Daniel, who knew the full details, stepped in to help. "Exactly. And even more surprising, Jessica is the daughter of Castle Electronics president." "The president's daughter," John exclaimed. "Yes, so James, you were highly regarded by her. And that's why the president immediately decided to hire you," Daniel summarized. Jessica knew James had high-level IT skills from school and saw how well he handled customers at TKD Electronics, drawing out their needs and explaining products clearly. She also noticed how respected he was as a manager. She thought highly of his professional and personal qualities, Daniel explained. She also knew about TKD Electronics' reputation as a tough workplace, so she didn't need to ask why he left. She assumed that if he was let go, it was the company's fault. That's why she offered to consider other talented employees from TKD Electronics if James recommended them, which is how she reached out to us. Daniel turned to me. You've also been studying on your own and have high IT skills. But I didn't know Jessica thought so highly of me. When did you two discuss this? Daniel smiled and replied, Jessica likes you a lot, so she often asks me about your time at TKD Electronics. We talk about you a lot. Please don't tell her any weird stories, okay? I said with an embarrassed smile. Of course not. I only tell her good things. Besides, Jessica is so fond of you that if I said anything bad, she'd be mad at me, Daniel said. Jayan chimed in with a grin. So does that mean the daughter of the president likes you? James, embarrassed, stood up and exclaimed, No way. Someone like me, an introverted nobody, being liked by a beautiful and capable woman like Jessica. That's impossible. Daniel laughed and said, James, I didn't know you back in your student days. Maybe you were just a self-proclaimed introvert staring at a computer, but that's not who you are now. You're definitely a capable guy with high customer service and IT skills. You're a thoughtful person. If I were a woman, I'd be head over heels for you. Even as a man, I'd admire you a lot as a colleague and friend. I was stunned, having never been spoken to like this, and had no words to respond. Jayan added, I agree. I think you're a very capable guy, James, and I really admire you. When I was the assistant manager, you supported me a lot. Even after you were suddenly fired, you kept in touch and supported me, listening to my complaints about the new manager. Without your support, I might have been crushed under the new manager. I can't thank you enough. Feeling flustered, I said, Please stop, trying to hide my embarrassment. But deep down, I felt a warm sense of appreciation, and as an adult, I was almost moved to tears. John, it became clear how competent James was right after he left TKD Electronics. The new manager was overbearing, arrogant, and clueless, causing sales to plummet. This manager was headhunted by Michael to turn things around. So when it failed, Williams, the president of TKD Electronics, blamed Michael and eventually fired him. The company's debt ballooned, and with competent employees leaving, bankruptcy seemed inevitable. Jayan said, Yeah, we were lucky to get out before being caught in the fire. Right, John Daniel replied, and John nodded, saying, And now both of you are utilizing your customer service and store management skills from TKD Electronics, along with your high IT skills, to handle both internal systems and store operations at Castle Electronics. You've become key players in a major company, earning high salaries, and Castle Electronics' performance is soaring. I'm proud of my former senior's success. You're flattering us too much, John. Are you trying to butter us up so we'll treat you to dinner? Daniel joked. Oops, you caught me, John playfully replied. But we had planned to treat him to dinner from the start. Jokes aside, it was clear John genuinely admired and respected us. I have always prided myself on working diligently on whatever task was in front of me. Sometimes it's unclear if that hard work will pay off, but moments like this show that it can. Relationships built purely on self-interest are fragile and can quickly fall apart. However, trust that has been built over time is much more resilient. Reconnecting with these valued friends is a treasure to me. I looked at the two people in front of me and thought of Jessica. These precious connections. Thank you, I murmured. That hurts. A girl was walking ahead of him when she suddenly slipped and fell. Are you all right? I hurried over to give assistance since I was on my break and on my way to grab lunch at the convenience store. I appear to have twisted my ankle. Oh. What shall I do? Oh no. She said in a panic, I won't be able to make it to my exam. I took notice of what she was saying and asked her to elaborate. A test? What took place? Well, she was surprised to be suddenly addressed by a stranger. She took a slight step away from me. I kept talking softly to her. I'm not a creep. Perhaps you're having problems. I might be able to assist if you tell me what's happening. Actually, I got the train schedule mixed up for my college entrance exam, she said, looking distressed. I'm going to miss it at this pace. Oh, I see. Now what's the issue? I drive a taxi. You are aware of the venue's address, correct? A cabbie? Her eyes briefly glistened before returning to their sullen expression. However, I'm not certain that I have enough money. Don't stress over it. I'll take care of it for now if you're short. Really? Are you certain? She gave me a startled expression. I smiled back at her astonishment. Thank you so lot. Thank you so much. I got it. Then, let's head quickly to the location. I then drove her at full speed in my cab to the university exam location. She was so focused on her preparations that she was furiously going over her notes. Fortunately, the roads were free that day, and we arrived at the destination without encountering any traffic jams. I'm grateful. Thank you so much, really. Just leave, move quickly, and arrive at the location. Thank you, indeed. As she walked to the location, she continued to bow to me. I kept an eye on her till she disappeared. Then, one day a few years later, I was driving with a customer when I heard some conversation coming from the rear seat. What's wrong with the partner I chose for her matchmaking? He belongs to the same group of business owners as I do. Regarding his finances, there is nothing to be unhappy about. He is a decent person. Soon, I hope to see my grandchildren. The idea that I might not get to see my daughter's children makes me sad. She would rather have a more practical job. I'm not sure how to handle that. He sighed as he spoke. I nodded along, listening to his words. This man, Mr. Smith, often used our taxi service and was a regular customer. He always calls his daughter when he's in the taxi, but it seems she's not interested in relationships or marriage, even at her age. I think it's fine to stay single nowadays. If she's not interested, she shouldn't be pushed into marriage, I said. As a parent, I think it's better for my daughter to get married sooner rather than later. You know, raising kids takes energy. It seems she doesn't have a boyfriend to speak of, which worries me. She doesn't even know about dating, but she doesn't like the sound of arranged dates with other business owners either. Now she says she wants someone with a down-to-earth job, not a CEO or anything. It's a bit of wishful thinking. I hear you. I thought to myself, being a father is tough. I kept listening. Then Mr. Smith dropped a bombshell. Oh, that's right. You're single, aren't you? How about you meet my daughter for a matchmaking date? What do you mean? Well, she needs to get used to these situations, doesn't she? It's just a bit of practice. How about it? Will you join me? Just go on 2 or 3 dates. That's all I ask. Before that, I'll get turned down, I said with a laugh. In response, Mr. Smith got out of the car saying, I'll contact you again. After that, somehow, I ended up agreeing to practice for an arranged date, practice with Mr. Smith's daughter. When he told her about the arranged date with a taxi driver, she seemed more positive than usual and insisted on meeting, even if just once. So he pushed the conversation forward. Well, seriously, Mr. Smith is an important client, I thought. I had to do as he said, and the day arrived. Before the arranged date, I secretly met with Mr. Smith to discuss the details. You know, when I told my daughter, she started saying she's more interested in a taxi driver than a CEO. Why is that? I asked, puzzled. Mr. Smith started to explain. Well, it turns out she fell in love at first sight with a guy before she entered college. She doesn't know his name, It was a kind taxi driver who helped her get to her entrance exam venue when she took the wrong train. She lost his business card and even forgot to note down the taxi company's name. Such a klutz. What? I exclaimed loudly in response to Mr. Smith's words. Huh. Something wrong? No, it just feels like something similar happened a few years back. Oh, really? How many years ago was that? It's been about 6 years now. That's around the time my daughter started college. Could it be? You're the one? You're my daughter's destiny. What? I couldn't help but express my surprise at Mr. Smith's remark. Wait a minute. People often say it's a small world, but could such a story be true? That a girl I once drove in my taxi years ago would turn out to be the daughter of a client. That doesn't normally happen. It's fate. This is fate. I'm not quite following the story here. Please, I'm asking you to take today's arranged date with my daughter seriously. But Mr. Smith, let's calm down. Are you sure your daughter is the same girl I drove? We need to confirm that first. That's right. Let's go confirm it right now. Okay, I'll go. Just please don't pull on my clothes, I cautioned the excited Mr. Smith as we headed to the upscale restaurant for the arranged date. I'm begging you, it's a request for life. Otherwise, I may never see my grandchildren. Okay, just calm down. Well, right. So, I waited at the restaurant for her to arrive. Mr. Smith parted ways with me as if nothing had happened and headed towards the lobby where he was meeting his daughter. Nice to meet you. We looked at each other, and immediately, memories of the past came flooding back. No way. You're the taxi driver from back then. You're the girl from that time. Sure enough, Mr. Smith's hunch was right. His daughter was indeed the girl I had given a cab ride to years ago. Who would have thought we'd meet again after so many years? It's quite a surprise. We continued our excited conversation in a private dining room of a high-end restaurant. Oh, by the way, did you do okay on your entrance exam that day? Yes, I passed successfully and graduated the year before last. I really had a wonderful 4 years. That's great to hear. Who I am today is all thanks to you, the driver. If you hadn't driven me that day, I wouldn't have been able to attend that university. I don't know how to thank you. I wanted to contact you right after that day and look for your business card, but I must have dropped it somewhere and couldn't find it. I didn't even know the name of your company, so I couldn't express my gratitude. And for that, I'm really sorry. She bowed deeply. It was nothing big, really. Come on, lift your head. I'm just glad you made it to your exam on time. I had always wondered about that day, so hearing this from her made me genuinely happy. Mr. Smith was listening to our exchange, nodding emphatically and saying, I knew it. While glancing at her father, she whispered to me, did you by any chance get hit with the please take care of my daughter spiel? I scratched my head in embarrassment. She bowed deeply again. I'm truly sorry. I had to do it. Otherwise, when would you ever find a husband? Mr. Smith said with a pointed look, Listen, Dad, I'm still in my 20s. I want to focus on my career a little longer. But I did bring someone you'll like. Look, we just met briefly years ago, sure. I always said that if I were to marry, I'd want someone who can act kindly on the spur of the moment, like the taxi driver from that time. But if we were actually to date, that's a different story, isn't it? We both need time to prepare ourselves emotionally. So, how about you give it a trial period and start dating now? What the heck? With a sigh, she buried her face in her hands. Mr. Smith, it seems like Madison still wants to focus on her career here, and I'm not exactly swimming in cash right now either. I'm also questioning whether I'm really in the same league as a CEO's daughter like Madison. After I said that, Mr. Smith replied, These days, it's not easy to have a good time in any job. Running a company is especially challenging. Anyway, you two had a fateful meeting, so it's all right to date each other, right? After all, Both of you had quite the memorable introduction. Looking at Mr. Smith's carefree attitude, I couldn't help but feel a bit exasperated. I don't mind if Madison isn't against the idea. Really? You're okay with someone like me? If you're not into it, that's totally fine. No, it's not that I'm not into it. Well then, if it's okay with you, would you like to start dating? Yes, I would. Yes. Now I'll get to see my first grandchild. I had agreed to proceed with a relationship as planned in our meeting. Who would have thought that I'd end up dating the girl I saved 6 years ago, and all because of her father's assertive matchmaking? Man, today was a good day, wasn't it? Mr. Smith was in high spirits during the dinner, and the drinks were flowing. Anyway, our next day off is definitely a date. Huh. Yes, sure, with a smile. Mr. Smith seemed very pleased, while I was slightly taken aback, responding to him. Madison just gave her a smile. Thanks to Mr. Smith's assertive suggestion, we quickly arranged our schedules and decided to meet up again soon. I'm really sorry for the trouble my dad caused the other day. No, I should apologize for not being considerate enough. As soon as we met up at the cafe, we were both apologizing to each other. So about this conversation. I get it. Even after that, being told to just start dating out of the blue. At that time, I was swept up by Mr. Smith's momentum, but I didn't think it was possible to start a relationship with a woman in such a forceful way. That's what I believed. But her response took me by surprise. No, if you're okay with it, why don't we really start dating? Excuse me, I told my father, but it's true that I've been thinking about you ever since that day. After all, I want the person I marry to be someone who can help me in times of need. I was at a loss for words to her statement. I'm already well past my mid-30s. I felt that there was a bit of an age gap. I certainly didn't think there were young women in their 20s who would want to date me. But then, if you don't mind me, I would like to date you. Just, if we get married or have children. I want to continue working, so unless you can accept that, I can't consider a relationship with marriage in mind. Oh, that's no problem at all. I smiled at her words. In the past, there may have been a time when it was assumed women would just stay at home, but these days there are few husbands who would say such a thing. It's important that we support each other in life. I have no intention of taking away what's important to you. With that, she smiled brightly. My dad has been saying he wants you to eventually take over the company. If you're willing, would you consider coming to my dad's company? I won't say any more that I'm not up for the CEO's job. Actually, I've been working as an administrative assistant at my dad's company. She was quickly moving the conversation forward. No, let's slow down a bit on that, I responded, my mind reeling. It seems Madison, Mr. Smith's daughter, is as eager as he is. Right, I'm getting ahead of myself again. I'd always do this. Let's just enjoy our day. Today, I didn't have any more room in my head to think. Just being with such a charming young lady was overwhelming enough. Who would have thought, in my mid-30s, I'd have such a fateful encounter that could pretty much decide my future? And with a girl I met by chance 6 years ago. Shall we go then? Yes, let's. At that moment, I took her soft hand, glanced at her profile, and felt a spark. With her, I felt like we could enjoy our days together. After today's date, I decided to officially ask her out. That's what I resolved.